All right. So yeah, I think as I take a sip from my libation, I think personally I'll just come out and say the controversial shit. I think the critics were overly harsh on Rebel Moon. I watched it. I didn't hate it. I actually found myself entertained. I will definitely watch this part two. Did not recognize Jenna Malone at all, which is crazy. I got to find out who she was.
She was the
Uh,
spider lady.
she did a good job. Um, but Ed Skrein, he's someone I'm now looking at his name. He's someone I'm going to be paying attention to.
He was
He,
in Deadpool.
oh, now I'm going to go back and watch it again.
Yeah,
He killed that shit. Like
he
that,
was the
that's
best part of that movie.
killed it. Like he was so good. And so that's basically that's my headline. Ed Skrein, dude. Like I don't know who you are yet. I literally saw your name tonight, but after your performance, I was like, you were the shit. And I'm glad. Hopefully not a spoiler. You're gonna be around for part two because yeah,
Yeah,
good job.
yeah. I think my initial thoughts are kind of the same. Like I didn't. I found it really hard to get attached to anybody as a character in this. But I did think he did an amazing job. To be fair, I don't think anybody did a bad job. I don't think anybody was a bad actor. I like the girl in the lead, Sophia Boutella. She was fine. Um, they could have injected her character with a little humor. I feel like that could have been across the board. Like Charlie Hunnam's, copycat Han Solo wannabe was probably the only like real humor in the movie, the closest thing they had to it.
Yeah.
Ed Skrein had evil humor, like he was a dick, and he had some laughs, but he was definitely the best part. I I think the critics were overly harsh, but I definitely don't agree with the audience scores on Rotten Tomato either. Um, I definitely sit right around that 50% mark. Like, um, I've talked about it before, and it's the same. I'm gonna have the same problems. I could just tell you now, almost with anything that Zack Snyder does, because he doesn't do anything different. There's the slow motion is gratuitous, but with that in mind, like it's a beautiful movie. Like I can't say that it would like I don't like the pacing of it. I don't like all the slow motion. The script wasn't great. It really felt like he took 85 things and fed them into an AI and then it spit out a script. Because I saw bits of Dune. I saw bits of, obviously the Seven Samurai reference is going to be in there because she went around and gathered like seven people, like and uh, obviously this was supposed to be a Star Wars movie. It felt way too bloated to be a Star Wars movie. Um,
Too
so
too dark.
yeah. Um, and so it's just there's so many things in there. There were more, and I wish I could remember what they were because, like I said, I saw Seven Samurai, I saw Dune, I saw one of the cities was totally Blade Runner. Like there was so much stuff that was just it was so bloated. It was so much stuff. It was almost sci-fi for the sake of being sci-fi, right? Like um so it's story-wise and some of that stuff really bothered me, but I cannot bag on the performances. I really thought everybody did a good job. Um and like I said, Ed Skrein I thought was fantastic.
Glad you said that because I just looked him up on Wikipedia. He was born on March 29. You know who else was born March 29? Me. So
Nice. You got
yeah,
a
so
brother.
like I got a brother and brother from another mother, literally.
Mm.
Yeah, but no, that explains so much. No, no, I love what you said about the cast. I want to call out a couple other people. So, Djimon Hounsou, like
Oh yeah.
like he is. I don't know if that was like CGI or if he's really that jacked, but at one point he was just huge. I'm like, dude, you're like 80. Like
Yeah.
Are you still buff? You were in Janet Jackson's Love Will Never Do Without You video. That was your first thing. That was in 80, not 90. It was 90. So that was a long time ago, like
All I
30.
can say is J.K. Simmons got pretty jacked recently too. So age isn't necessarily a factor these days with the trainers and the all
HGH.
this.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so we keep going for a second. All right. Ray Fisher, didn't even recognize him. I
Mm-mm.
didn't even know that was Cyborg until I saw online
Yeah.
someone said Ray Fisher. I'm like, what? Yo, okay, all right. Because I felt like his character too, like he made me care about him in a short period of time, you know? And
Yeah.
it was almost predictable when he's like, I'll see you when I get back. When he says it to the sister, I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
he's a goner, you know?
To be fair, there wasn't a lot about this movie that wasn't predictable,
Yeah.
right? Like it
Ooh,
really
ooh.
followed its.
I will admit, and our boy Hockey, who will eventually be on the show, he's a mutual friend of mine, and Pete, like we both agreed. I didn't see the Charlie Hunnam thing coming. Like I thought it was gonna be a love triangle between Charlie, her, and like that other
The
dude.
goofy little farmer dude that had no
Yeah,
chance.
had no
Yeah.
chance. I thought it
Yeah.
was gonna be that. So maybe if you did, props to you. So when he finally just like turned on him like that, I'm like, oh, okay. And I actually like I sat up and I was like, okay, this is getting good because this movie like just seems like again, like you were talking about Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars for me never felt like, okay, we're all gonna die. Like there's doom, but
Rogue
it's
One is the only one.
and they did.
Yeah.
But, like,
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
but yes, but like so anyways, where I was going with this was I was okay with them actually having a chance. So then when he just turns on them and they're all in those like things, I'm like, dude, like this Zack Snyder is Mr. Grimdark. Um, Anthony Hopkins as the android, that's cool. Or yeah, I like the android. I think he's going to have a bigger role in the second one.
For sure.
Um, and then even that like the writer, like the almost like he almost seems like a stand-in for like a Native American or something, but like he was like kind of cool too. So now I'm going to jump into this whole uh themes and other stories. Okay. So Kim, what's up, Kim? Kim's boyfriend Sean was basically saying that this movie seemed to be like an homage to like the Magnificent Seven and like the Seven Samurai, and then Battle Beyond the Stars. So this is my segue. Battle Beyond the Stars, I've known about for a long time. I've always thought it had a cool name. It's from 1980. And it's one of those movies where it would come on cable at like 10 o'clock. And this is Atlantic time, by the way. And as a child who was only 5 or 6 or 7, yeah, they're not letting me stay up till 10. So I could Battle Beyond the Stars. And I go to bed crying because I couldn't watch it. I cried. No, this movie is terrible. But let me continue. It was produced by Roger Corman, directed by
All
some
right.
rando, Murakami, I think his name is. I shouldn't say rando, but anyway, it was directed by Brando by, wow, terrible. And the special effects, though, were done by one Mr. James Cameron. So this
Wow.
film, Battle Beyond the Stars, is what set him off because it was a low budget film, but the effects are actually good for their time. They're laughable now, but for their time, it got a lot of attention. And James Horner did the score.
All right.
So when you listen, yeah. So when you listen to the score of this movie, it actually sounds very much like Wrath of Khan, but Wrath of Khan is like even better, basically. But they're similar. Same shit, dude. Basically, there are these people on this planet called like Akira, and then like this like invader guy comes, and the invader guy is the dad from Nightmare on Elm Street. Anyway, so invader guy comes, says, you will now like give me your fucking like food, and if you don't, I'll just blow you up. And then this boy is like, what are we gonna do? We have to go find some people. And he goes around the galaxy finding like other people to fight for them, and they go and fight this big guy. Dude, it is Rebel Moon, like from 1980. Rebel Moon is 10 times better. If you want, like, dude, I mean, no, I'm gonna bag on this. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, it was a terrible movie. I mean, some people like goofy shit, and we all know Andrew's not about the goofy life, depending on the situation. But for the most part, I'm not. And this movie is it's just bad. But and I thought about all these other films that feature people going on a quest finding people to like help them. And it happens all the time. I mean, Star Wars had it for sure. I know X-Men has it to some extent, especially when you look at like Days of Future Past when they have to go get Magneto out of jail and then they go get like or even First Class when they're getting everybody, together. So, I don't think it's necessarily like a total copy of like the Magnificent Seven and Seven Samurai, but maybe those movies were the first ones, or those stories were the first ones, or Seven Samurai maybe the first story to
Yeah.
do it, and then
Yeah.
everything else is copied. But I think it's a cool theme. It's a journey, and I don't think it necessarily has to be, lame. But I guess taking it back to Rebel Moon, I loved the score. It's Junkie XL, and that score was very BVS-y and Man of Steel-y. Tom Holkenberg, I think his name is. That's what he's going by now. And the visuals are great. I do think the slow-mo was excessive. But the fight scenes, the combat scenes, I liked them. They were convincing. And homegirl Cora, Sophia Boutella, like she was getting her ass kicked. Like when she
Yeah.
was getting hit,
Yeah.
like she wasn't just like, oh, like shrugging it off like Captain Marvel might, but that's different. But she actually like, when a dude hits her, she feels the force, but she figures it out. And that last fight between her and Belisarius was so satisfying. Because I mean, this motherfucker needed to feel pain. And when you saw those teeth fly out in slow motion, I was like, yes. All right, end rant. Back to you.
Yeah. No, to me, I feel like all that slow motion starts to interfere with the fight choreography because it takes away from it a little bit for me. I'm much more impressed. I mean, you can see everything happening, so the choreography is okay, but it looks better at full speed to me than it does at slow speed. Um, I know she's good. I've seen her in other stuff. She was in, I think, the first
Perfect
Kingsman
Beyond.
movie.
Mhm.
She's been in stuff where she kicks ass, so I know she kicks ass. Um, but I feel like um, I just feel like she's been better. Or her fight scenes have been better because there's so much slow motion. It's just her fight scene can take like 5 or 6 minutes when it's probably a 2 or 3 minute fight. The fight in the barn was good, but it was weird. There was a couple of times that, to be fair, I thought were actually kind of realistic. Like she got the gun, and it was almost like she was trying to get control of the gun, so she like shot at the ground a couple of times and didn't actually hit anybody. Um, which like I said, I'm okay with because to me that's sort of realistic. If you're battling for control of something, not every shot's going to hit somebody. I actually liked the end of that scene when it was actually the robot that fired the kill shot against the dude that he was supposed to be taking orders from. I thought that was pretty great. Um, for me, I didn't think Anthony Hopkins did a bad job, but I definitely feel like it was Anthony Hopkins getting a paycheck. He doesn't really have to do anything. Um, but he's not young anymore, so maybe, maybe it's a good line of work for him to be doing voice work at this point. Uh, but I didn't, the fight scene was good, but that fight scene was too long and it was a little confusing because there were so many protagonists in that fight. Like you had the young guy that stood up for the girl, was one of the guys. I thought there was one other person in there. Then you had her in there. Then the robot comes in and gets the kill shot. You know, when you have a scene like that, like a one against many fight, it's unbalanced, but it's a movie, so you expect your good guy to win. And I expected her to win. Her taking a beating wasn't a big issue, but it was a little convoluted when you're following a couple of different people. I'm not quite sure who's doing what, but I mean, it was okay. It's just like I said, too much slow motion, just everywhere. Like you said, when Ray Fisher's running up the thing at the end, and he's sacrificing himself running up that thing, like that didn't need to be in slow motion. Maybe a second or two of it, but the whole thing in slow motion, I'm like, dude, oh my god. So I'll say this: I watched it a second time tonight
Oh.
because I wanted to be ready because I had watched it, a week and a half ago or whatever, and I fell asleep. It put me to sleep. It's too long and too slow.
Okay, that's fair.
It's just that's my biggest complaint about it. And I think if you reduce the slow motion, if you cut 15 minutes out, like you could literally cut 15 minutes out of this movie. Same problem that I had with whatever the last Zack Snyder movie we talked about was. Um, if you cut out the slow motion, or at least some of it, like I respect slow motion. Like every movie has it in there somewhere, right? Like it makes sense, it works, especially in action movies, but it's just it's too much. It's
Yeah.
too much. Um, and we've said it before, but you know, Zack Snyder's definitely he's a style over substance guy. The this movie is a ton of style, and the style is great. It's just too long. It's just too long and
Too
too
long.
slow.
And
Um,
a lot of yeah, a lot not a lot of meat to latch onto except for fucking Ed.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And the other thing too, it's like I'm really I don't know the only character that really had any growth was maybe the main character, but that was in the very beginning in the barn, and after that, she was just kind of the same chick the whole way through.
so she also reminded me a bit of Gamora. I mean, as far as like
A
her
little bit.
getting like Raz and then getting taken in by like the main conqueror and then becoming like his finest like soldier and everything.
Hmm.
That was cool, you know. And I also want to give props to Bay Duna as Nemesis because at first, from the trailers, I thought this had lightsabers too. No, they're not lightsabers, but I still like the fact that her swords light up and like will like scald you as well as cut you, like cauterize
Yeah.
it. Like it's the same effect. So yeah, no, I think overall this this did what it needed to do, which is, in my opinion, like keep Zack Snyder's name alive. Because I think that after being unceremoniously dumped by the DCEU and also probably being blamed for its failure, you needed to like seriously come up with some new shit to hang your name on. And I think that with this, uh, there's something here.
I can say though, I really think that it releasing on Netflix was the best thing that could happen to this movie. I don't think it would have landed in the theater. I don't think it would have been a blockbuster.
No, yeah,
And I don't. The advantage that they have here is Netflix can just say, "Hey, look how many people are watching it. It's a great movie," which isn't necessarily true, right? Like, there's a lot of things that end up topping their viewing charts that people are watching. It doesn't make it good. It just makes it something that people are watching.
buzzworthy.
And
Yes,
yeah, and there's a difference there. Um, I think I don't see this movie and the way that things in the theaters are going right now. I don't see this movie being a huge success in the theater. So I think it being on Netflix, like I said, was a big boon for it because Netflix is full of shit. Like when it comes to their stuff. So they're gonna talk about how great it was and not talk about how much money they're gonna lose on it or whatever. Because it was what was the budget? It was like $200 million or something like that. Like it was a pretty expensive film to make. Um, and they're making two of them.
yeah,
So no matter what, they have to hype this one up so that the people come and watch the second one. Another thing that one thing that does drive me crazy and it turns me off about this movie a lot, you know, before I even saw it, was Zach already talking about how the director's cut is a totally different movie. I'm like,
yes,
why are you having to make a director's cut? Like, make it make it three movies, cut it into three film, do something. But like, if you're the writer and the director and you're working with Netflix and they're not, you know, they're not really stopping you from doing what you want to do. Like the fact that they're ready to already talk about a director's cut means they intended to do it this way. They intended to put this movie out and then put out a different version of it just to get more viewers, which in its own way is smart because they don't have to spend any extra budget on it. The movie's already made, it's already filmed.
just
So when they release the director's cut, it's just more eyes on the product, right?
yeah.
But it's shady, man. I don't like it.
So I heard the director's cut is rated R or something like that.
Is this
Uh,
not rated R?
no, this is only PG-13, and that makes sense because
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah. So I mean because yeah, you can tell Zach is a dark dude. So
For
I
sure.
wonder, so maybe like the rated R version probably just has whole scenes that aren't even in this one because they just
Oh yeah,
couldn't.
absolutely. I would bet large swaths of money that the director's cut is probably almost an hour longer. If I was going to bet money, you're going to look at a 3 hour, 3 hour, 3.5 hour movie. I just there's going to be so much more because he even said it's going to be like a totally different movie. I was
Yeah.
like, so which one is the right one then? Right? Like, if you're going to go into the second one, it's just it's annoying more than anything. Like, it really is upsetting because he had, at least seemingly, at least what we were told, is he had full control over this film, and then he's putting it out and being like, "But it's not good enough until you see the director's cut." Like, I always feel like if everything you put out needs a director's cut,
Yeah, it's
you
undisciplined.
need to teach yourself something about what you're making
Yes.
and figure out how to tighten that stuff up. Um, because BVS needed it, Justice League needed it. This apparently needs it. Um, so,
Oh, and what's it called? Needed it too. Watchmen.
oh yeah, yeah.
Because the thing is, like the movie Watchmen, like the theatrical one, it feels a bit more disjointed. The actual real one it's like 3+ hours,
Hmm.
but it's actually really good. It's a masterpiece. And what's his name? I'm sure you saw is giving him props. Nolan, Christopher Nolan is like, the movie was ahead of its time. And I now think it kind of was, but it would have been better as a series than
For
a movie.
sure, for sure. But they weren't doing that back then.
You weren't exactly.
That's
Yeah.
the argument against that is that the stuff wasn't being done in the same way at that time. Um, but I agree. I mean, Watchmen should have been a series, and when they did the Watchmen follow-up show, um, that was a fantastic series.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely should have been a series. I would actually I would love to see Zack Snyder take a break from films and do some kind of series,
Yeah.
something where he can stretch out and tell whatever story he's telling in a longer form. I still don't know that I would like it. I don't necessarily love his storytelling, um, but I do like to see his stuff. Like, his
Yeah.
stuff is really pretty. I think if he were part of a directing team
Mm.
or had a great writer behind him, they could do some really impressive stuff. And I think a series would be great for him. Because I don't hate Zack Snyder. I always feel like it sounds like I hate Zack Snyder, and I don't. Like, I fully respect him, and he definitely has his style. Um, but it just he needs that extra something to be what I would consider a great director.
I would love to see him work with Kevin Feige.
Be
I think
interesting.
it would be, I think it would actually, because to me, like the way Endgame looked as far as that last battle, the sheen of everything
Mhm.
reminded me of a Snyder film.
That's fair.
Yeah, so it's like I think those two, it wouldn't be fair. I think there need to be an antitrust laws against like, those two forces coming together. Like we're gonna kill a game. I think it should happen.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I don't know what
IP.
franchise he would take. Yeah, which character he would take because you
Hmm.
know he doesn't. The thing is, he doesn't do the lightness that a lot of this stuff needs. Like, give him Moon Knight. I know the guys that did Moon Knight did a great job, but or at least a character like Moon Knight, something that's darker, something
Oh,
that's a little
dude,
misunderstood.
I'm gonna go all the way to the moon. I don't give a fuck. No, I say after the MCU, like after Kevin leaves Marvel, him and Snyder do Robotech. Sorry, I think they'd kill it. I think they would kill it because Robotech is dark enough. Like there's lots of depth
Oh,
in that.
sure, sure.
And you got to get those graphics right if you're gonna do the mecha transforming and everything. Yo, just tell Zack Snyder in the first one, does Andrade wipe out the entire Earth? I think Zack would be in. He's like, I'm in. That's all you need to tell me. Like
Yeah,
all Earth dies. Oh yeah, I'm in. Let's do it.
yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah. So I mean, Rebel Moon. I didn't hate it, didn't love it. Would definitely. I know what I would change about it, so that's helpful. Like, it's nice to see it and be like, well, I think they, this and this and this probably could have been better. Because at least you feel informed when you do that. If you just watch something, you're like, that was shit, and I don't know what I would do to fix it. Like it's just a dumpster fire. This was definitely not that. It's um, again, it's a well-made movie. It's a beautiful movie. The acting is good. Um, it's just it's a bit of a slog, and I can't imagine that they're going to add an hour to it and not make me want to shoot myself in the face. But you never know.
All right.
So,
Now, Rebel Moon.
really quick, because we're talking about Zach, we're talking about style over substance, right? I'm gonna talk really quick about a show that is on Paramount Plus slash Showtime. I think it was primarily on Showtime, and now it's on Paramount Plus, and it's called The Curse, and it stars now I can't remember her Emma Stone and the other guy. I guess he's a big deal. I don't know who he is, but he's been around a little bit. But this one is it's a series. I want to say it's eight, somewhere between 8 and 10 episodes. I'm not quite done with it yet. But man, this thing is all style and mood. This is 100% a mood show. The plot of it barely moves. The characters suck. Like I'm gonna finish it because I've been watching it, but I can't honestly recommend it to anybody. It's just so bizarre. It is about. It is. I think I said it in our group chat. It's uncomfortable. Just like everybody's just kind of fucking miserable. Everybody just makes everybody miserable. Nobody's decisions go the right way. The title of it makes no sense. They call it The Curse because a little girl curses them in the first episode, but she's literally a little girl and she says, "I'm cursing you." And then they only bring it up one more time, and she basically says, "Yeah, I cursed your dinner that you wouldn't get any chicken." And that was like it. But they called the whole thing The Curse. It does like the name doesn't sit. So the whole plot of it is this is a couple that's doing um they're kind of trying to build a community on or near Native American land. And so they're kind of revitalizing this community, building what they call um passive homes, which means the homes that they're building use as little electricity as possible. Everything, they're trying to keep everything. They're not off the grid necessarily, but the amount um of I don't know what the right term is, energy waste or whatever that they produce is a minimum. And so they're building this house. They're in their own way. The houses are really tacky. They're like mirrored on the outside, and they're almost kind of like Pueblo style on the inside. But um, and it's just like she knows what she's doing, but she's not really very like she's fake pleasant, like with everybody. And then her husband is just kind of a doofus. Like he doesn't really he tries to be funny and he's not. And then when they're on film trying to make this show that they're trying to make, because they're trying to make an HGTV kind of show, right? Um, and like he can't be funny on screen, like he's just bad at it. And like their relationship is super strained. I think in the first episode, there's a conversation between the husband and the wife's dad about how they both have micro penises, and they show them like it's I mean, dude, it's so weird, and like everything is so just uncomfortable. Like everything is slow. Like there's so much time in scenes where nothing is happening and you're kind of just watching somebody walk around being kind of in a funk, and then they'll talk about something. I mean, it is I want to say it's produced by A24. I think The Curse is produced by A24. And it definitely has an A24 feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it is 100% mood. It's interesting to watch because of that, but I can't say like I can't tell anybody to go watch it and be like you're going to love this show. Like if you look it up on Rotten Tomatoes, I think it's got the same almost the same spread as Rebel Moon. Um let me look real quick.
The series explores how an alleged curse disturbs the relationship of a newly married couple as they try to conceive a child while co-starring on their problematic new HGTV show,
That
Flip.
almost that yeah, that almost doesn't explain it at all. Like they're not really trying to have a kid. Okay, no, this is the opposite of Rebel Moon. That's what it is. So the critics gave it like a
Love it.
94%. Critics
94.
fucking love it.
Okay.
Audience scores 38%.
Okay, first of all, you were right. A24, but also Fruit Tree, Blowout Productions, Alara Pictures, Showtime Studios. This to me, like, this screams like LA, Beverly Hills type, like, film snob. Fuck it, I'm gonna say
Yeah,
it, like, type shit, dude.
100%. 100%. Because like if you go to IMDb and you read the reviews, like there's a bunch of people who are like, what the fuck? This is slow as shit. Nothing is happening. These people suck, right? And they're right. And then you get the few people that are like, well, what do you expect? You just want a movie that has a plot and moves along? And I'm like, yes. That's actually why I watch television. Um, so like I get it that it's artsy. I get it that it's weird. Um, but man, it's just I don't like it. Like I I mean, I would say to watch it just to see
Yeah.
what I'm talking about, but I can't tell you to watch it because I think you're gonna love it. Like it's so bizarre.
Believe it or not, and I think you get me. Like, I'm a contrarian motherfucker. If you want me to watch something, tell me not to watch it. The Curse was named among the best TV shows of 2023 by Entertainment Weekly, IndieWire, Elle, Time, the AV Club, and the New Yorker. I'm so glad I got my computer. And then I'm like, serious, I love reading this shit. And then like I'm reading some of the plot things, and it's like yeah. Uh, Eventually, Asher suggests reaching out to a previous prospective buyer, Merck, whom Whitney had initially dismissed due to a Black Lives Matter, Blue
That
Lives
dude,
Matter sticker on his
yeah,
car.
that's Dean Cain.
Well, that's
That
perfect.
character is Dean Cain. Yeah, he showed up
That's
and I was
perfect.
like, of fucking course this guy is
So
Dean.
now I want to see. So it's almost like at Seinfeld-esque, or like it's a show about nothing. Like maybe that's what this is, you
No,
know?
it's definitely, I mean, it's about something.
Okay.
It is just like if you take how slow Rebel Moon is and then you slow it down 3 times as much, like it's so slow and it's so like and these people are just miserable, dude. Like there's people like their sex life is literally um he uses a vibrator on her, which they have a name for, and then they talk like he's watching her with somebody else, and then she is he finally allowed to join in? Like it's dude, it's so weird. Like, I mean, sure,
No, I
by
definitely get
all
you.
means, watch it. Tell me what you think, and if you come back and tell me it's amazing, I'm gonna be like, cool, you are now a critic to me, and you're dead to me. But no, I mean, I can see why some people would like it. I can just also see why most people don't.
Right.
It's just they're just like I said, absolutely nobody is likable. There's not a single character that's likable. Nobody really seems to be growing as a person at all over the last. I think I've watched 7 episodes now. Like, eh,
Another was something you said just reminded me of something. So I remember how like there is the differences between season one and season two of White Lotus, and I feel like in season two you had more likable characters. In season one, pretty much everyone's a dick except for the hotel manager. And it's like, but I liked that. I was like, yeah, people suck, man. Shit. So you saying that just kind of sold me more.
but
But I
that
want
one, White Lotus at least had some pacing.
Yes. Oh, it
Like,
was so well told. Every
yeah.
episode had like a thing, you know? And there was growth, a lot of growth, I
Mhm.
think, between characters, particularly Homegirl. I never remember her name, but she's sexy as fuck. You know what I'm talking about, the weird one.
Sydney
Um,
Sweeney.
no, the brunette who was on Parks and Rec.
Oh, Aubrey Plaza, the season two. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Season
No,
two.
season one. She was in
No,
season.
she's season two.
I'm an idiot. You're right. All right. Anyways, moving right along. So speaking of like uncomfortable shit, like I haven't watched it yet, but I and I don't know if I will watch it because you actually said Andrew would not like this show based on what I know about him. But you talk about weird, uncomfortable shit, right? So this Saltburn thing, I'm hearing about this left and right. Like I've seen it in my interstitial, I've seen stuff in my feed, and all I know is there is a scene in the movie where apparently the Joker, Barry Keoghan or whatever his name is,
Very
like
cute, yeah.
Keo like decides to like inhale or ingest like some bodily fluid left by Jacob Elordi, because he has a crush on him. Weird, you
Out of
know.
his bathtub. It's not like it's just dude is in the shower, spanks it, leaves it in the drain. Other dude comes jumping in and eats it out of the drain.
I was trying to save the
I
list.
haven't even seen this, and I know this scene.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it either. So it's crazy. Like, did they know? They probably did. Like that this was going to be free advertising for the fucking show by having a scene like there. So anyway, so we'll have to check out Saltburn at some point. But
I
yeah,
think Jen watched the whole thing. If we can get her on, I'm really curious to have somebody talk about it.
yeah.
Like I'm curious enough about it that I may just check it out. It's streaming. Speaking of things that are streaming, just really quick because Rebel Moon also kind of makes me think of it. The Creator is streaming on Hulu, and I haven't watched that yet, so I need to watch that.
Yeah, Saloni actually, we saw that on Interstitial as well. We almost watched that. But instead, we're gonna jump around a little bit.
All
We
right,
watched this Christmas movie. Oh my God. This Christmas movie. As a matter of fact, no, you go first because I'd rather have my notes up and
all
then
right.
talk about the movie. You go.
Since you already sort of transitioned us to Christmas movies,
Yes.
my family and I watched Genie today on Peacock. It is a Melissa McCarthy film with just about nobody else in it that I recognize. The main character is a, British black actor who I haven't seen before. He reminded me a little bit of John David Washington in appearance, but 'cause, like the first time I saw him, I was like, "Oh, is that him?" And then it wasn't, and then I never really thought it again. But um, it is not a great movie. There was a thing when it first dropped that it had like the biggest release on Peacock ever. And now, if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, now I feel like I've been waffling back and forth between critics and audiences, but the critics gave it a 31%. The audience gives it a 63%.
Okay.
Really like Melissa McCarthy, but this movie just wasn't very good. It's the same problem kind of that Rebel Moon has in that none of the characters experience any growth. So he's a hardworking guy. He's got a wife and a kid. It's his daughter's birthday. It's the night of his daughter's birthday. He he's about to leave the office. His boss comes in. His boss is a dick and is like, "I need you to finish this thing for this client that's in right now." And so he decides to do the work. And so he goes to his wife's birthday, or sorry, his daughter's birthday party late, doesn't have a present. Wife gets mad, takes the daughter, excuse me, goes to the mom's. Like it's, and it feels like things have been tense for a really long time because of his work. And so the backstory during the whole film is that their relationship is deteriorating. Well, at some point, there's this box that his wife had that he opens, and it turns out there's a genie inside, and the genie is played by Melissa McCarthy. At this point, a lot of this early part of the film kind of feels like Elf, in that like she's like trying to learn the world and she's just kind of goofy and all this stuff. Um, and the gist of it is that as a genie, you don't just get three wishes; you have unlimited wishes. You can wish for as much as you want. Okay, so cool, whatever, right? And like just like every wish that he makes, through the entire thing is superficial. Like he just wishes for shit to make his life a little better, but not actually improve himself, which would be the whole point of the movie. And so you go through this whole movie, he wishes for things for his daughter, he wishes for things for his wife, but it turns out, with his, now estranged wife, it's too late. By near the end of the movie, she's like, we should talk about making this a permanent thing, talking about their being separate. And like it's just nothing he can do, it makes it any better. So, his last wish was He's got a couple of last wishes, which I don't quite understand how they work, but um, of course they do the Aladdin thing where he's like, I want you to be free. I don't want you to be trapped as a genie anymore. Right. So there's that thing, but then he still somehow gets three more wishes after that. And one of his wishes is to go back to before all this started. So the night that he gets work, and then he tells his boss to fuck off and he goes home, and then somehow, like, so he goes home, he tells the boss to fuck off. He's like, I quit, I'm out. Goes home, the wife is happy. She's like, oh my God, you quit your job that I've wanted you to quit for so long. So now all of a sudden they're just happy because they couldn't have had problems before this, whatever. So they're happy, but he's still got a couple more wishes. And his wishes are fucking stupid. He goes, takes the daughter out, takes the wife and daughter out to dinner. They get to this restaurant and they're like, sorry, we don't have any extra tables. And he's like, I wish you did. And they're like, oh my God, I do. And I'm like, dude, you have these wishes that you could like be like, you could be a better person. Like, I get you're using them on your wife and your kid, but you already did that to no effect. Like, that didn't help you through the entire movie, but he does. And then they're sitting at the dinner table, and this bratty little kid there at this fancy restaurant. His little daughter's like, they're ordering like, I don't know, caviar and shit. Like they're ordering the fancy stuff. And the kid's like, oh, I just want a peanut butter jelly sandwich and blah, blah, blah. And the waiter's like, well, we don't really order off the menu, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, I wish you did. I'm like, dude, like, it's like he didn't learn anything through the movie. And then they just live happily ever after. And then at the end of the movie, her genie is still free, and she works in a pizza shop that he introduced her to pizza, and like there's this kind of moment, and then he orders pizza from her, and she's like, what she said, "Oh, your wish is my command," or something like that. And it's like supposed to be super sweet, but it's just dumb. Like there's no character growth in it. Like I wanted it to be good. I really want it to be good because I do like her, but she is literally the only thing that's even entertaining in the movie. And like I said, the dude just has no growth whatsoever. So it's just cool. Like afterward, my entire family was like, "That's a movie we watched." And they're like, "Okay," because at one point I think we paused it with like 20 minutes to go, and we were just like,
Should we finish this?
"Yeah, we should just finish it because we started it." But like, if we hadn't finished it, we probably all would have been like, "Okay," you know.
Yeah,
So
no, not to jump around, but that's what I did with Battle Beyond the Stars. I had 20 minutes left, and I decided to just read the synopsis in Wikipedia and call it a day. I couldn't do it to myself anymore. But thank you for that. I'm also so I went and pulled my notes for this movie called Best Christmas Ever. And as all you all know, Andrew is no longer single. I have a girlfriend, and having a girlfriend means you got to watch some. If she's going to watch Attack on Titan, then you have to watch what she wants to watch sometimes. So it's Christmas, and they want to watch a light Christmas movie. So we watch Best Christmas Ever.
sounds like you're to me, without hearing anything about this movie. I just looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes real quick, but knowing you, this sounds like your hell. Like this,
I had to metaphorically hold my nose. The only, but to be honest with you, like, because like these like rom-com holiday shits, fuck it, they're so alien to me because I don't watch them. I don't know what's good or bad. So by the end of it, I was like, I didn't hate it. But then I went and saw this Rotten Tomato score. Like, yo, dude, like, like the audience score is 18% and the critics is 38. That is terrible. I think that actually might be the worst reviewed movie we've ever seen. It might be.
I have watched worse. I don't remember what it was, but I know that I watched something worse.
So let me tell you the plot. The plot's actually somewhat relatable, but it's like, wow, I don't know. I have to bite my tongue because I want to like diss entire swaths of people here. But basically, Jason Biggs and Heather Graham, they went to college with Brandy's character. Jason and Heather, they live in a small apartment, and Heather apparently is the breadwinner because I think Jason lost his job or some shit. And Heather Graham is like mad fucking jealous of Brandy because Brandy has this holiday letter where she updates all their friends about what her life is like. And her life is kind of the shit. They live in this big ass mansion and blah, 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 blah. And then Heather's like, man, fuck her, like, and basically somehow, like, their kid, they're supposed to go to their sister's house for the holidays, and their kid puts the wrong address in the GPS, and the address is actually to Brandy's house. And then they have to stay there because there's a big snowstorm and they're forced to stay at the house. So Brandy has this like hunky Latin husband that Heather Graham is absolutely gaga for. Then like everything about their life is better. Like their kids are smarter. Like and Heather Graham is so determined to find out that this is bullshit. Like she's literally supering out her house, trying to find like some dirt on Brandy. And apparently, hijinks ensue. And then finally, like some things turn around, and you know Heather gets over her insecurities, and you actually find out that not everything is right with Brandy's world, but in a tragic way. So Heather's like, oh, like I'm an asshole, and Brandy's like, well, yeah, but we're friends, so fuck it, let's just hug it out, and they do. So I think that at the end of the day, it's a movie that everyone can like relate to on some level, because I know even with like social media, some people don't like social media because they don't like seeing how other people are living and then being made to feel bad about themselves. So it's the whole envy shit. So I get that. But I just thought to myself, man, this is ridiculous. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you like, this isn't like, are people really? And he's like, yeah, they are. Like in terms of that envy, crazy. So anyway, I didn't mind it. Brandy, frankly, what's crazy to me is Brandy, and you probably remember Brandy as like a little teenager, like singer back in the 90s. Like she was giving me a little Angela Bassett. Like she actually, like, she's a fully grown woman. It's wild. So I would just say, for Andrew not to absolutely rip his eyes out from this movie, that's a compliment, because but then it's also like, it's the power of the G. I almost said,
Yeah.
but power of the G, power of the girlfriend. But yeah, I definitely rolled my eyes several times, to the point where I think I had to like unroll them towards the end of the movie. But yeah, so we did cover two Christmas movies. So Ari, Ashley, there you go.
Yeah.
And I know it's 2024 by the time you're seeing this, but hey, there's 12 days of Christmas. So
There you go. Uh, it's, Christmas year round. Just find the right channel. You can watch Christmas all the time. So yeah, I like, I like Jason Biggs. I like Heather Graham. I like Brandy. So, I'm curious. I'm actually curious about it now. If same reason as you is, I look at the ratings and I'm like, is it that bad? Because the one thing that I know about holiday movies that are like this kind of holiday movie is they're very formulaic. So there's certain things that happen at certain points, and if I'm guessing, oh, it's actually shorter than I thought. It's an hour and 20 minutes, which is not promising.
no.
Like usually that's a bad sign.
Yes.
So that's a little sketchy too, um, but I might just check it out just to give you some secondary feedback on it. Um, but yeah. Hmm. All right, so I've got one more thing, and this, for all the bitching I've done, I absolutely love, and it's the show behind me, Poker Face, starring Natasha Lyonne, um, who I have always loved. Like I've loved Natasha Lyonne. She was one of my favorite parts of American Pie. She's one of my favorite parts of Orange is the New Black. Everything I've ever seen her in, I've always loved her in, and she is like like sarcastic comedy embodied. Like she's hilarious. So the main running thing is, so this is a show, 8 episodes. I just finished the show today. It took me about a week because I was watching it with the wife, so I wasn't watching it by myself. Otherwise, I probably would have crushed it in like 2 days. Um, But the gist of it is she is, for whatever reason, they don't bother to explain the why or the how, but she's a human lie detector. If you tell a lie, if she hears it, she doesn't even have to be in the same room or anything. She just knows whether it's the truth or a lie. Period. Just she doesn't know why, she doesn't know how, she just knows. And I think it takes till like maybe like the third episode, but at some point, just every time she hears a lie, she's like bullshit. Like she just instinctively is like bullshit. Um, and so, the way this story starts off is she had been, driving across the country hustling poker games because what better thing to do than read people's lies as they're playing poker, right? And so eventually people figured her out. Like they knew she wasn't cheating, but they knew she had some kind of advantage. And so she had got a reputation across the country as, somebody that is doing something. Whatever that something is, she's doing something and nobody would play with her. She got blackballed from poker games. Well, she gets hired to work at a casino after the owner of the casino figures out that she's got something, and he figures out what it is somehow. Either she tells him or whatever. So he says, why don't you just come work for me? He doesn't make her do anything with that skill necessarily, um, but the way the first episode runs is he's kind of stepped away. He's given his son the reins of this casino, and the son is played by Adrian Brody. And this is a series. I mean, this show has guest after guest after guest after guest on every episode. Like it's got an amazing cast as it goes through. Um, but the son tries to use her to scam somebody out of some money because um, he's running this casino. It's kind of falling apart. Well, he goes against his dad. She kind of catches him and inadvertently rats him out. And so he gets a call from his dad, freaks out, and jumps off the balcony of his roof and kills himself. So now the dad is like, I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna kill you because like it's her fault that his son killed himself. So I don't want to give too much away about the ending of the series, but the way that the show runs from there, there's this backstory always of her on the run. But as she goes from place to place, she, in a very obviously unrealistic way, she encounters a murder everywhere she goes. And so she's not a cop and she's on the run, so she can't really give herself away. Um, but she helps solve these crimes, these things that have happened based on just her ability to tell, understand whether somebody's telling the truth or telling a lie. And it's, I mean, it's a fun show. It's done in a really interesting way. Each one is directed a little differently.
Mhm.
So a couple of the episodes have a really different feel to them, but the setup is always the same. So it starts off where you have she's not even in it for like the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe even. It starts off with the story of the person that's going to end up dead. So they tell their whole story, right? And they go through their whole thing, and then the murder happens. And then it flashes back to find out that before this person was murdered, she was actually part of the story and you just never saw her. So she was already interacting with these people. So she knows these people. And then the rest of the episode is her figuring out, who did what. Um, there's a few times in the show where there's some plot twists that are just like surprising. Like they definitely catch you off guard. Like you just do not see them coming. And I think it's so well made and so well done. And she's great. And like I said, just the phenomenal amount of guest appearances is incredible. There's an episode with Judith Light and I can't remember the lady's name, but they were former activists in like the 60s. And so Judith Light and this lady, she's a black lady. She's been on a couple of things that were a big deal. She's on one of the Law and Order shows. She's on something else, and she's great. And but there was a list put out, I think it was by BuzzFeed or something, but it was like the best duos of the year in TV shows, and um Joel and Ellie from The Last of Us were on there, a couple other people, but Judith Light and this lady were on there because their interaction through this whole thing is so great because they went through this thing together. They did some bad shit because of it, and they have been together ever since. So, they were 20 in their 20s, now they're almost in their 80s, and they've been together the entire time. They went to jail together for something they did. They came out and now they're living in an old folks home
That's
together.
Epatha Murkison. I knew that's probably who you're talking about.
What's her
Uh,
name?
it's a weird ass name, S. Epatha Murkison, but like because when you said Law and Order, I knew it was her because I've seen her because she's
Yeah.
done like, endorsements for like healthcare and shit.
Hmm.
Like, but I'm like I've seen her face. Actually, wait. Yeah, Law and Order, Chicago Med, Chicago. Like,
Yeah.
anyway, she's been around forever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
like,
she's great. And the way that her and Judith Light like kind of steal the show from uh
yeah.
Natasha Lyonne, who's a scene stealer in her own way. Like she's so good. And like I can't this one I can definitely recommend to people. I think it's very enjoyable. It's fun to see the murder mystery unravel because generally speaking, in almost every episode, you see the murder happen. You know who committed the murder, and it's more about her figuring it out and how she's going to, rectify the situation, right? Because she can't really get involved with the cops because if she ends up reported, the guy running the casino is obviously part of, the Vegas mob scene, right? So they get their information and then I think it's in the second episode they kind of set the idea that if you show up publicly in any way, you basically have 4 hours until somebody's going to show up. And so that's kind of her hard and fast rule. And it comes up later again, like she ends up on somebody's TikTok in the background. Somebody catches her and puts her on TikTok, and she doesn't know about it. And then she's like, "Shit, how long has it been?" They're like, "Oh, this is like 4 hours ago." And then boom, like the guy shows up is that is chasing her, which is played by Benjamin Bratt.
Yep.
And he does a great job. But like if you just look through each episode, I mean, Nick Nolte has an amazing appearance in here. Cherry Jones has a great appearance in there. Um, I'm trying to think. There's a couple other really. I mean, Adrian Brody's fantastic. Like, I haven't watched a ton of Adrian Brody stuff. Like, I know I've seen stuff, but I never really think about him. And I was watching him in this, and I was like, this dude can do anything. Like, he's really good, and he's still young enough that he could have a long career ahead of him still. And I think he's really talented. Ron Perlman is actually the casino runner, which you don't really see him on camera for a long time. And funny enough, later on in the series, one of the other casino owners is played by Rhea Perlman, same last name, totally unrelated. Um, but it's good, man. It's really good. Like I actually recommend this one to anybody. I think it's pretty great.
Word up. Well, I see Jamila Jamil here as well as Stephanie Shu, and
Oh
yeah,
yes,
it's stacked, very
yeah.
stacked.
Jamila
78.
Jamila's in one with Ellen Barkin and Tim Meadows, who I fucking love. Tim Meadows is like he usually does kind of the goofy, dry comedy, and he's definitely not that silly in this one, but he's still great. He's definitely, you know, at least a little comedic. But that episode's wild. Like it's just, I mean, it's cool. It's just a cool show.
Now I noticed it's Sky and Showtime. So is there like a British flavor to this at all?
Not that I've seen.
Okay.
I mean, it takes place in Vegas, and she's
Yeah.
traveling across the country the whole time, so it's always in the U.S. There's a barbecue episode with Lil Rel Howery
Yeah.
that's pretty fun. He he's pretty uh he's pretty dark in it. Like he's not the best guy. Like he's pretty shitty. And he does a good job. So like it's just it's really well made. It's really well made, and it is like it's like a murder she wrote, right? Like it's just a murder a week. Doesn't really tie into the main story. It's just every now and then it references how she's on the run. In a few episodes, Benjamin Bratt almost catches her. Like you go through that, but it's bookended by the main story. So you have the first episode that's all about like her going on the run. The last episode of the first season is her dealing with that, and then it sets up a second season, which is coming out. This is, I think she's nominated for an Emmy, or the show is nominated for an Emmy in some way.
Hmm.
Um, I think she should be. I think she actually is. It does a great job, and it's just, I mean, damn it, it is really a fun show.
We are truly in the golden age of television. That's all I gotta
Mhm.
say. Truly.
Yeah, I think one of the things about that just is that in the streaming era, it feels like you can make TV that feels just a little more real because you don't worry about ratings in the same way, right? You know, if somebody just needs to say fuck, you just, you know, that if that's what the character would do, you just do it. And it doesn't make sense to have a mob boss be like, "Oh, shucks." You know, like that kind of takes you out of it, right? And in this, like any character, like I said, her she gets kind of this little tick where anybody time somebody lies, as the show goes on, she's just like bullshit. Like she just can't help herself, you know? And it's very much exactly who that character would be. And if it was on network TV, she'd be like, no. You know, it would still work, but there's a realism to what you can do with streaming television and that you're not tied into that exact, you know, what is it,
Right.
47-minute runtime because you have to worry about commercials and stuff, right? And uh, 3 episodes of a single season could be, you know, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and 65 minutes, depending on what the story requires. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I know we were trying to keep things nice and tight, and I think I was tempted to talk a little bit about Invincible as well as Blue Eye Samurai. Um, and there might have been another one, but I can't really remember right now. But I think I'm gonna save that
All right.
because uh all I'll say though about Invincible is I really am enjoying it. And thank you for reminding me to watch the Adam Eve episode.
Oh, yeah.
It really made me like her character more.
Hmm.
And um I don't know how the show does it, but the show is irreverent yet deep and funny, like all at the same time. Like how do you do that? You know, because I do feel for characters. I feel for
Yeah.
what um Merc's mom is going through. Like that's really rough.
Yeah.
And she has her moment outside of the support group where he's like, "Yeah, don't bother coming. Like you're good." Okay, like she's lonely, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't care, dude. Like you should have known." Just walks
Yeah.
away. I'm like, "Damn."
Yeah. It's harsh. It's harsh for sure. Like, and she, yeah, it sucks because you know you watch that and she did not know. Like
No,
she firmly believed that
calls
her
her a
husband.
pet.
Yeah. Oh, oh, that hurt, dude. Like when he said that, and I was like, damn, dude. I was like, damn. Like, and it's just brutal. And then like the way that this, because you still have one episode to go, the way that finishes up definitely changes the like feels like it changes the course of the show a little bit. And it really sets up the second half of the season in a way that I think will be really interesting. So I'm really curious to see what you have to say when you finish it because it's really it is cool, and I think yeah, like you said, everybody's great in it. Like there's not a wasted moment in it because each episode is pretty short, you know.
I'm breaking my rule. But tell thing. So the fact that Optimus Prime is in the show, did you recognize his voice?
I did.
Like
Who did he play
that
though?
Dear Cullen, he played the old guy who like Alan the Alien. Like when you go to Alan the Alien's planet and he's like the
Hmm.
leader of the whatever like
Hmm.
coalition to like fight the Viltrumites. And dude, what happened to Alan? OMG. Those Viltrumites like
They're dicks, dude. They are dicks.
like the way he's left him in the space, like with his eyeball all hanging out, his arm chopped, and his guts hanging. Dude, like that's what I mean by the show is dark yet funny and deep all at the same time. And then Optimus Prime like kills him.
Well, and I talked about this with Blue Eyed Samurai, but animation gives you the opportunity to do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about special effects because you're already animating it, right? So if you choose to have a show that is violent, you can have that violence be really graphic because you're not limited to special effects makeup or CGI or anything like that. You're just drawing it in, right? So like Blue-Eyed Samurai, there's a bunch of sword fighting and bloodshed and all that stuff, right? And they don't shy away from that. And in Invincible, I mean, the fights are brutal. Like in season one, when he's going up against his dad, that is brutal. So, like, yeah, animation has had a kind of a back and forth bad rap for a long time because as everybody's like, it's for kids if it's animated. But number one, American audiences have always been slow to adopt anime and adult animation. I think I would hope that Attack on Titan is with its um, kind of mainstreamness, how big it's gotten, will put a dent in that. I think I've always said when Marvel was just killing it with the MCU, I always thought that DC should have pulled back and said, you know what, let's make some animated shit for a while, because their animated stuff that they were making already was pretty damn good, but nobody was talking about it because it was all straight to video. Um, and the stuff they were putting out was, granted, it was retelling of stories that existed. So you had like Doomsday and all this stuff, but it was better than what they were putting in the theater.
Yeah.
So it's just animation for adults is hard. It's hard unless you put it on a service, unless you put it on a streaming service, because adults really aren't going to go to the theater for an animated, unless it's like
Spider-Verse.
a Spider, but even that's not really adult. It's still family, right? I mean, what's the one you watched? Sausage Party. Like Sausage Party flies because it's so ridiculous that adults will go see it because they're like, oh, this is going to be, whatever. But you can't get away with like a dramatic animated adult show, a film in the theater, right? It's never going to be a blockbuster, so it's tricky for sure. And Invincible does it in a great way, and I think streaming is the perfect place for it. And I think maybe for now, that's the best place for this stuff because it puts it in front of more eyes that maybe wouldn't normally watch it. And then, as people start to, kind of incidentally watch it and get hooked on it, maybe then we can start moving towards it being in the theater more often.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Agree more.
So cool. Well, if you don't have anything else, then I think we came pretty damn close to our time restraint here. And so with that, I will say belated Happy New Year to everybody watching. Hope your 2024 is awesome. These next few weeks will be a little all over the place. I don't know. Andrew probably won't be on, so I may do a solo episode if I find some stuff to watch. I may be able to get Pete on, but he's stupid and can't do things because he's stupid and has a stupid face. I hope he watches this so he knows he has a stupid face. Jen or Kim might be able to get on. I know Kim said Sean has been harassing her to get on a little more, so I would totally do a show just her if that's what it takes to get something out. So hopefully we'll have. I'd like to start off the new year with a regular schedule. So we'll see what shakes, and I'll do my best there, and hopefully not be tired or sick as the year kicks off, and we'll go from there. So, like I said, with that, I'll say a Happy New Year. Hopefully, by the time this drops, you're still working on your resolutions. You haven't already given up, and we will see you next time.
You'll notice I experimented and like fucking like it's growing back in, but it's just, dude, I hate it. And it's like other people say it looks good. I'm like, no, Like it actually, like I got COVID, man. So between like COVID and then just life without my mustache, I was not a happy man. So I cannot wait for it to come back. Oh my God. Actually, you know what? Maybe this will make the podcast. If you like me like this, let me know. Like put it in the comments. But I just feel like a fucking Ninja Turtle or some shit. It's just I don't like it. It's mm. But again, like when you look at like politicians and stuff and like big power like dudes like fucking Obama or like Jeff Bezos or like anyone really, like they're all clean shaven, like the
Yeah.
guy from Disney. What I'm talking about. I'm tired.
Um,
Iger. Iger, like all these dudes, they are all clean shaven. So it's like there's got to be something to this clean shaven shit. But right now, I am not feeling it. It's coming back. I'm gonna grow a little bit. You can see it coming here. Like this face needs hair. Like,
yeah, dude, I haven't been clean shaven. I think I've been clean shaven once in the last 20 years.
did you like it?
No, dude, I look like a fat baby.
That's how
Like
I feel.
I just like mm-mm. Like I don't think my kids would recognize me. Like it'd be weird, dude.
I could even like someone who can actually pull off both is like Henry Cavill, right? But I actually feel like Henry looks better with fucking facial hair. He looks more like, what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
but he can pull it off. He can, whatever, fuck him.